Okay, we are ready now to combine the lessons that we have previously done. Okay, today we're taking notes, section 1.2, over solving equations with simplifying. So, I've arranged a format here to help guide us through the steps that we need to think about. So, some things to notice about this are, these are things that we have seen before. The distributive property, where we have parentheses and we multiply. We've combined like terms, where we have to have matching terms to add and subtract. And then we have cleared the constant with addition or subtraction properties. And we have cleared the coefficient with multiplication or division properties. All right, so this is our setup. Now, some things to notice, some differences between the things we've learned. Whenever we do the distributive property and combining like terms, we're working on one side of the equation at a time. So we're just doing what we see. The operations that we see are the ones that we do. Then, remember we were drawing that line at the equation, or at the equal sign, because in our next lesson we were doing operations to both sides of the equation. And that's when we do the opposite of what we see. Okay? So that's an important point here, that on these two steps we're going to do what we see. If it's add, we're going to add. If it's distribute, we're going to multiply. If it's subtract, we're going to subtract. And then here, when we're clearing constants and coefficients, we're going to do the opposite. So let's look at the first problem here. And notice it has more stuff in it than what we've seen before. So first of all, we have to determine, do I need to use the distributive property? And in this problem, I don't. And the reason I do that are there are no parentheses. No parentheses. So now I move to the next check. Do I need to combine like terms? So this is where we're looking at one side at a time. So over here, are there like terms? And the answer to that is yes. So that means we have to, we're going to copy this equation. We're going to start it right here. Okay, so in this one, remember we showed like terms. Notice here where the equal sign is. I'm on one side of the equal sign. I'm going to do what it says and pull these two things together and get 6x plus 16, because that just dropped. There's nothing that matches. Okay. We can't combine terms with combining like terms when they're on opposite sides of the equal sign. So I can't add the 16 and the 46. That's where this comes in. Because now, remember, our ultimate goal is to get the letter alone. So now I look at what I have. I have a constant and a coefficient. And that is what we have done in our previous lesson. So now I'm ready to take that and change my thinking. 6x plus 16 equals 46. So now each side is down as far as I can get it. We can't add these together. They're not like terms. So now I have to start peeling numbers away from the x. And we do that, first of all, by clearing the constant, which in this problem is 16. I see addition. I'm going to draw the line, because this is where I have to start working with both sides. I made this disappear, and I did it over here. 6x equals, that would be 30. All right? So then I have to determine, am I done? Is the x by itself? And it isn't. There is a coefficient, so I have to take the equation through this box. Notice the equation is getting smaller after each step is done. And notice here, I see multiplication, so we're going to divide. And we're going to do that on both sides of the equal sign. So that's very important, that here, now we are clearing numbers away, and that's when we use opposite operations. Remember, 6 divided by 6 gives me 1x. That's what I'm going for. 30 divided by 6 is 5. So that would be my solution. Thank goodness, because I'm out of boxes. But I know it is. I know I can stop because I have the x by itself. Okay. So now we look at another example. And we follow the same checklist. All right? So in this particular problem, I notice it's different than this one because it has parentheses. So when I ask, do I need to use the distributive property, the answer is yes. So that's where I'm going to start this problem. Negative 2b minus 4 equals 12. So I'm starting the problem in this box. Remember here, the distributive property, notice everything is happening on one side of the equal sign. I'm going to multiply. That's what I do here to get rid of these parentheses because I cannot subtract because these don't match. So negative 2 times 1b, that's a 1 there. That gets me negative 2b. Remember, we see this. We know that subtraction becomes plus a negative 4. So that 4 here is actually negative. So I have negative 2 times negative 4, and that gives me a positive 8. That's where some people miss the sign. Now on this one, I ask, do I have to combine like terms? So this is an important question, and important that you know how to look for that. Some people think the 8 and the 12 are like terms. To be like terms, they have to be on the same side of the equal sign. So there are no like terms on this side, and there are no like terms on this side. So in this particular problem, I don't have like terms. Okay? No matches on the same side. That's how I make that determination. Okay, so now we're ready to switch gears and switch colors. Now, as I look at my equation, we see that we have a constant and a coefficient. So I know I'm going to have to drag it through both of these boxes. So I'm going to rewrite negative 2b plus 8 equals 12. I'm going to take that, and I'm clearing the constant, which is a positive 8. This is where I start having to work on both sides. So I have to do the opposite of what I see, make it disappear, and do it over here. So 8 minus 8 is nothing. I'm left with negative 2b, and on this side, a 4. So now, I know I'm not finished because the letter is not alone. It has a coefficient with it, which is being multiplied. So I'm going to have to do one more thing since there's one more number or one more operation that is with the letter. So here, we're working on both sides, peeling numbers off, and since I see multiplication, I have to divide. So I get b is equal to negative 2. Okay. And the final one, this one, we have, I notice, parentheses. So I know I'm going to have to do the distributive property, so that's where I begin. Parentheses are always the thing I have to get rid of first. So I'm going to rewrite the equation here because I have to use the distributive property. Okay, so copy that down exactly as it is here, and I'm going to follow through and do what's listed at the top, distributive property. So here, the 15 doesn't change. Negative 3 times 1x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times positive 1 is negative 3. And remember, we don't multiply the 9 by the negative 3 because it is not in the parentheses. So it just drops down and stays a positive 9. So now I ask myself, do I have like terms? Are there matches on the same side of the equal sign? So if I cover up this side, that side is simplified. Simplified as much as I can. If I cover up this side, I see we have some things here we can bring together. So that means that we have like terms. So So I'm going to keep the 15 equals negative 3x minus 3 plus 9. So the things that come together are, and we see this as a negative 3 plus 9. Remember, we go left to right here, bringing those together, and that leaves these two terms the same. Negative 3 plus 9 is positive 6. So now I have done my combining like terms. These terms don't match, and there's nothing I can combine on this side with just the 15. Okay. So now again, we're switching gears. I see that I have two numbers that are two operations that are with the letter. I'm trying to get that along. So the 6 that I see here is the constant. It's the number that's not attached to the letter or to the variable with multiplication or division. So I have to get rid of it by addition or subtraction. When I'm across this line working on opposite sides of the equal sign, I have to do the opposite of what I see. So these are the numbers I have to get rid of because this is what I'm trying to get along. So I'm not trying to get rid of the 15, I'm trying to get rid of the 6 and the negative 3. So with addition and subtraction up here, I can make this 6 disappear by subtracting 6. I do it over here and get 9. And I have used the subtraction property there. Now, I'm not finished because the letter is not alone. I see multiplication, but I'm on this side of the process where I have to look at both sides of the equal sign, opposite sides, so I have to do the opposite of what I see. I have to divide by negative 3 so that I get a positive 1x. That's what I'm going for. And then a positive divided by a negative is negative 3. Okay? So now I need you to try the problems that are on the back of your notes, and then we'll come back and check those. So, good luck. Okay, here is a picture of what happens in the first example. Check your first box. You did the distributive property. This is what you end up with. There were no like terms. Then we cleared the constant, working on both sides of the equal sign. So we flipped over to the undoing part here. And then we divided both sides by 5. This is something we've talked about a few times, that 5 doesn't go into 34 even, so there's 3 different ways I can write this answer. As an exact answer, I can leave it as the fraction 34 over 5. That's an improper fraction. That can be represented as a mixed number, 6 and 4/5, or it comes out as a nice decimal as well, 6.8 when you divide. So you need to realize that those are all 3 ways to represent this answer. So now try the second one, and we'll check it. Okay, here's the second one. The first 2 boxes, we're just doing arithmetic as we see, the distributive property. I did that, multiplied, dropped everything else that wasn't involved there. Then I noticed I do have like terms, so I copied it into this box. These 2 can come together. That's where the negative 9 came from, 8 minus 17. Okay. And then again, I see a constant and a coefficient that have to be peeled off. Those operations have to be undone. So I'm now to the part where I'm working on both sides of the equal sign. I see minus, so I have to add. And that's what I end up with. And then I see multiplication, so I have to divide. I'm doing that on both sides. So I get a value of 3. That one came out nice. Okay, one more. Okay, here is the last example. Again, in this particular example, there were no parentheses, so I had to skip the first box. No parentheses, so that box didn't have to be used. Then I noticed that if I looked on the left-hand side of the equation, there were some terms that match. So I do what I see, and we bring those together to get this 5b right here. This minus 6, nothing on this side, combines with the minus 6. So now I'm down to an equation that has a constant and a coefficient. And we're going to start working on both sides of the equal sign. I have gotten rid of the minus, or the negative 6, or the subtract 6 by adding 6 to both sides. I made it disappear. I did it over here. And then finally, I got rid of the multiplication that I see by dividing. I made it disappear. I did it over here. And then I have the final answer, b equals 4. So now hopefully you're ready to practice some on your own.